A little earlier, I spoke to Philip Sherwell, Asia correspondent for the Sunday Times.
We have seen smaller numbers over the last couple of days. It's still the morning on Tuesday here, but that was compared to the weekend and Friday, which were public holidays when people were freer to turn out. Whether that is a sign of the level of intimidation and threats, which are considerable, whether it's just just a natural momentum issue, it's not really clear. There have been increasing number of arrests. There are more than 420 now, according to civil rights activists who are keeping a monitor on this, many of them associated with Aung San Suu Kyi's party, but also election commission workers. And there's a very important reason for this. The military is determined to build up a case that the NLD only won their landslide election in November through voter fraud. So they have been arresting, we think now, dozens of election commission workers across the country. And it's believed that there's great pressure on these officials to actually confess that widespread voter fraud took place in November. So the second night of internet cutoffs also interesting. There's twofold concerns there. There's one, what is the military doing while the internet is off in terms of getting messages, people being able to get messages out of the country? But also the junta has made clear they're going to introduce very strict new cyber laws, a sort of great firewall, to use the phrase in China. And it's thought they're actually using this downtime to sort of put in monitoring, surveillance sort of type software so they can look for any sort of communications that they might be able to seize on. They're warning of very strict penalties for any actions, be they online or on the streets, that are blocking the defence services, as they call them.
Now, meanwhile, international condemnation of the coup and this growing crackdown by the army is growing, Philip.
That's right. Now, the UN Special Envoy, a Swiss diplomat for Myanmar, she spoke to the junta's number 2 yesterday, and she made clear that that the world was watching, and that any actions, any crackdown in the form of the sort of bloody sort of suppression of protests that we've seen in 1988 and 2007 would be unacceptable. The military is probably looking at the numbers, and while there is widespread international condemnation of their actions, they have Russia and China in their back in international fora, who will probably prevent any unilateral sanctions. So then we're looking at what can the EU and the US do in terms of sanctions on specific military officers. But here there's another problem for the international community. The military has such a grasp on the economy in Myanmar. Even before this coup, they have 2 massive conglomerates that then run a whole network of businesses in mining and in tourism and in ports and electricity. That to actually sort of take action against military conglomerates without hitting the people of the country is a very difficult balancing act. So at the moment, the Myanmar military, they'll be aware of the condemnation. They have in turn explained to the UN that they're just maintaining order in the sort of phrase that juntas like to use. There's a standoff at the moment now. There's a standoff on the streets. There's a standoff in terms of the international condemnation. This week could be crucial in terms of how both of those play out.